Welcome to the Bodyguard podcast, where science meets natural healing to uncover the root causes of complex health issues. Your host, Christine Barnes, is a leading complex case health practitioner specializing in functional testing and personalized care. This show dives deep into clinical analysis, cutting-edge diagnostics, natural therapies, and holistic strategies to optimize your health and well-being. Your health is unique. Your healing should be too.
Today's episode is all about hormones, those tiny chemical messengers that run the show behind the scenes of your mood, metabolism, energy, sleep, sex, drive, stress, pretty much everything. We're calling this Hormones 101, Understanding Your Body's Silent Influences, because when hormones are in harmony, your body hums, but when they're off balance, that's when symptoms start whispering or sometimes are shouting at us. So whether you're navigating your cycle, approaching perimenopause, dealing with adrenal fatigue, or just feeling off, this foundational episode is for you. And specifically about female hormones. So let's just take a look at what are hormones really. Let's start with the basics. Just get familiar with the underlying foundation here of the conversation. Hormones are chemical messengers. They're secreted by glands throughout the body. They travel through your bloodstream and bind to receptors in tissues, telling your body what to do and when to do it. The hypothalamus and pituitary glands in our brains are like the conductors of, let's call it a hormonal orchestra. They regulate downstream glands like the thyroid, which runs metabolism and energy, the adrenals, which really respond to stress response, the ovaries or testes in men, that's our reproductive health, the pancreas, which is about blood sugar balance. So you can see hormones don't act in isolation and they're always talking to each other. And when one goes out of tune, the rest follow. Let's look at some of the research. A 2024 study in the Lancet Endocrinology found that over 60% of women in their 30s to 50 experience symptoms of hormone imbalance. But many go undiagnosed for years, often mislabeled as depression, IBS, or simply burnout, which, by the way, is not so simple. We've got 6 core hormones, and let's walk through the core hormonal players and the symptoms they communicate to us. They're drawing our attention to when something's out of balance. Cortisol, this is your stress thermostat. So produced by the adrenal glands, cortisol controls or manages or regulates energy, inflammation, blood sugar, and our sleep and wake cycle. So if you've got issues in that cycle, have a listen to my podcast on sleep. So if we have too much cortisol, think wired and tired, anxiety, belly fat, insomnia. Too little, think fatigue, low blood pressure, burnout. So it's not about more is better or we've got too much. It's about the ebb and flow of the cortisol as well. So cortisol gets us out of bed in the morning, gets us fired up to have attention for work. We want it to lower as the afternoon goes on and obviously into the evening so we can sleep well. Thyroid hormones, these are our metabolic messages. T3 and T4 regulate metabolism, so you can see some crossovers here, body temperature, mood, and digestion. So when they're low, we experience cold hands, fatigue, constipation, depression, brain fog. When they're too high, we develop sweating excessively, anxiety, weight loss, rapid heart rate. Let's talk about estrogen. Estrogen regulates ovulation and periods, mood, bone density, skin, hair, and vaginal health. So, when we're low in estrogen, think vaginal dryness, brain fog, mood swings, hot flashes. High estrogen or estrogen dominance, we're going to be thinking heavy periods, PMS, breast tenderness. Progesterone, another one of our sex hormones, is the calming hormone. And you might call it the natural anti-anxiety or sleep hormone, but look, I think that's limiting and downplaying its role in so many other functions. But low progesterone really shows up as PMS, anxiety, a short luteal phase, and spotting before periods. Now, here's a little fun fact. Progesterone drops sharply in a perimenopausal state, often before estrogen does, contributing to mood instability. So you can see it's not just about anxiety, and it's not just about managing our sex hormones, just so many things depending on whether it's high, whether it's low. Let's talk about the important hormone insulin. Now, this is in control of regulating blood sugar. So you could call it the blood sugar boss. It's made by the pancreas. Insulin helps move glucose into our cells for energy. If insulin is constantly high, you may feel cravings, energy crashes, brain fog, weight gain, especially weight gain around the middle. Chronically elevated insulin is what's diagnosed as insulin resistance. And this is one of the root causes of polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's also a pre-diabetic state and is inflammatory. Let's talk about our friend testosterone. It's not just for men, it's important for men, but it's also important for women. Women need it for libido, muscle strength, motivation, mental clarity. So if we've got too little, think that's when we have low sex drive, fatigue, muscle loss. Too much, we develop acne, thinning hair, facial hair, which is often seen in polycystic ovarian syndrome. So what disrupts our hormones? Modern life is full of hormone hijackers. I'm just going to mention a few. These are our top disruptors of managing our hormones, include chronic stress. So this is where we get cortisol chaos. Poor sleep, which reduces melatonin, affects insulin and thyroid. Refined sugar and ultra-processed foods, which are only recently being talked about. So refined sugar and ultra-processed foods spike insulin and promote inflammation. Xenoestrogens, which come from plastics, cosmetics, pesticides, mimic estrogen and throw off the balance of our hormones. Over-exercising or under-eating, which again is not talked about much at the moment, is common in high-performing women. These can shut down ovulation and suppress hormones. Even gut health plays a role. Your microbiome helps detox excess estrogen and regulates inflammation that affects the hyperpituitary axis, or what's commonly known as HPA axis. So you can see everything is involved, and also when something's out of balance, it also impacts many things. Let's talk about rebalancing naturally. So I'm going to call this section your hormone tune-up plan. Let's shift into support mode. Here's how to bring your hormone ecosystem back into harmony. And these are just a few hints and tips. Obviously, it's not individualized. These are just generalities. So please don't go and prescribe these things. This is just start to get your mind around how, some of the basics we might need to put in place and how to do that to manage our hormones. So we want to eat to stabilize blood sugar. Every hormone starts here. So, protein and fat at every meal, fiber to support detoxification, and avoiding naked carbs. And I love this term, naked carbs. So, no toast only breakfasts, as an example. And I'll throw in a bodyguard tip here. If you start your day with a blood sugar stabilizing breakfast, you'll get better results. So, think eggs or some other form of protein, sauteed greens, avocado. So that's an arrangement that's high in protein, high in nutrition and fiber. Regulating our stress response. You can't avoid stress. You can't skip it, but you can shift how your body handles it. And there's some really interesting basic things that we can do. Daily breath work. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with breath work, you can pop over to my website, thebodyguard.com.au or christinebarnes.com.au. Have a look in the shop. You'll see some breathing techniques. So start with volume 1 and work upwards from there. But we know the research shows that daily mindful breathing can actually help our stress response. Morning sun. This produces a circadian alignment, so it helps regulation. So we don't want to be glaring for long periods of time at the sun directly, but getting your body out into the sunlight without sunglasses, and it's the morning sun we're interested in. So traditionally that would be at dawn, but it doesn't have to be. It's just sometime in the morning. So, for instance, if you're taking a breakfast out on the veranda and getting sun exposure there, or out in the garden, or maybe even standing with your feet barefooted on the grass in the backyard, having your cup of tea. Now, I can throw in some herbs here that work like they have an adaptogenic action. I'm not saying or prescribing these herbs, but just to give you an idea, there are lots of herbs. These are just a few to be mindful of. Please ask your practitioner what suits your pattern of and your personal needs for your biochemistry. But top of the pops would be ashwagandha, holy basil, rhodiola. There's a lot of noise out there about detoxification, but really it happens naturally every day if we provide the right foundation and support. It doesn't have to be a big deal. And preferably we are providing the foundation so our body can do what it's supposed to do, what it's designed to do. So it's all about elimination. Hormones must be broken down and excreted as a regular routine. So daily we're producing, sometimes overproducing. We want to actually provide the body with the ability to optimize and detoxify anything that's being overproduced or we're experiencing in excess, especially when it comes to estrogen. So hydration, we're looking at 2 to 3 litres of water a day. Again, if you're unsure about how much water you should be drinking, maybe have a listen to my podcast on hydration. And I've got some programs coming up that are self-paced about hydration. Most of my programs include detailed instructions and challenges to develop new habits in staying well hydrated. Daily bowel movements. Now, I'm going to take this a little bit further. Most people think, yes, I've pushed a bowel movement out, even though it may be quite short and or quite narrow. and they think, well, that's all I have to do. But we want to have a close look. So I'd at least start having a quick look in the bowl before you flush and have a look at the quality, the shape, the diameter. I'm not suggesting that you pull that bowel movement out of the bowl and measure it, but just start to become familiar with what your bowel movements look like. And most of the conversations I have with my patients when they first get started are that their bowel movements, although might be daily, they're not generally long enough or a good healthy diameter, or they're not a good healthy color. We want to include cruciferous vegetables. Now, I know that sounds a bit fancy, cruciferous, but basically that's cauliflower, broccoli, kale, all those types of vegetables. Now, we can consider, in conjunction with a naturopathic consultation, some other nutrients that are prescribed. Some of those things might be something like liver support, which we then want to prescribe that specifically for the patient. It may be milk thistle, or St. Mary's thistle is the common term for that, for going a little bit deeper. Now, that is not a herb that's recommended if you've got low iron. So not all liver support is appropriate for each individual, and this is where a practitioner can help you. Calcium diglucarate is also a nutrient that can be helpful for ensuring that our glucuronidation pathway in the liver is supported. If we do a microbiome test, we can actually assess whether glucuronidation is working well for you or whether you may need a calcium diglucarate supplement. And again, if we've got excess estrogen, DIM is excellent at helping support that excess estrogen to detoxify. Let's talk about prioritizing sleep. Sleep really plays such a huge role, and I've done a few podcasts on sleep. So please search for my sleep podcasts if you'd like to hear more information about sleep, what it does, how to help it. So I won't dwell on it too much here, but sleep is like a hormone pill. So some ideas, just a couple of things that you can do that are easy, that are free, are turning the lights down 90 minutes before bed. And you could do this by, having the appropriate bedside table lamp, for instance, if you want to read a book, but you can buy specialty lamps now that are not exposing you to the negative aspects of light. And same with screen time. So you can buy glasses now, but really it's about reducing that stimulation. So yes, you can buy the glasses that adjust what you're absorbing as far as light is concerned, but just physically being in front of a screen actually keeps our cortisol. Remember the cortisol I mentioned earlier? It keeps the cortisol quite high. So that in itself can reduce the quality of your sleep, reduce the ease of onset of sleep, etc. And of course, as a naturopathic practitioner, we've got a huge toolbox that can help if you're having problems with either sleep onset or sleep maintenance, and lack of waking up refreshed. And I'll leave those herbs and nutrients for some of the sleep podcasts. So do go and check those out. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit this week. So this is this week's Bodyguard Challenge. So a 5-minute hormone check-in. And you can do that for a week, so 7 days, each evening, just by journaling and asking yourself these questions. Did I eat enough food regularly throughout the day? Did I feel calm, or was I on edge at times throughout the day? Did I experience any dips in my energy or brain fog throughout my day? Did I sleep well the night before? Was it easy to go off to sleep? Was I asleep long before midnight? Did I stay asleep, or was I drifting in and out of deep and then light sleep too much? Did I have to get up a couple of times during the night? If you just ask those questions of yourself each night, just 5 minutes each night for a week, you may see a pattern reveal. And this is where our hormones can be whispering to us and we're just not listening. So look for those patterns and seek out help if that's what you need, if you're seeing a pattern in there. So there you have it, your crash course in the silent influences that shape your body, your mood, your metabolism, your life, your hormones. And here's the magic. When we listen with curiosity instead of control and support instead of suppress, we give our bodies permission to recalibrate. Thanks for joining me today for the Bodyguard podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and found it insightful, please share it with your friends. Subscribe so you can also be notified when I publish future podcasts. Until next time, I'm Christine Barnes reminding you, your hormones are not your enemy. They're your messengers. Let's learn to listen.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Bodyguard podcast. We hope you found valuable insights to help you take control of your health journey. Want to dive deeper? Visit thebodyguard.com.au to learn more about our work, explore resources, and discover how personalized care can transform your well-being. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with others on social media. Your support helps us reach more people looking for answers. Until next time, take care and keep prioritizing your health, because your healing should be as unique as you are. Please note the information in this podcast is for educational purposes only and not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The Bodyguard accepts no liability for any loss or damage arising from the use of this content. Always consult a healthcare professional.